Hey everybody, what is up? Welcome back to Funnel Trade. Kevin from Gone Rogue Games made a couple of videos over the last few days about concerns he has about the current state of the Pokemon market and let's just say Sword and Shield product and where it may be going, things like that. And I really like that guy. I think his videos are neat. He's got a lot of good insight, owning a store himself, and I think you should subscribe to him. And so I wanted to make a video just kind of going over some of my thoughts on his thoughts. And I have two broad things to talk about. One is specifically about my response to what he's saying. And the second is kind of a more general case to help everyone understand what I think about this. And so, Kevin says that he has a lot of concern that there's a lot of remaining sealed Sword and Shield era product in the world. And he seems to have some misgivings of the ability of things like Evolving Sky to hold prices. And he expresses a lot of concern that, Pokemon buyers are just getting a terrible deal, right? So the way Pokemon generally works is you buy the sealed product, you open those booster packs to get the cards inside, and you've lost most of your money. The EV return on opening Pokemon booster packs, it's a lot worse than in other games. And, if you look at most of the singles market on TCG Player for Pokemon singles is horrible. It's just the prices are very, very low on modern stuff. There will be a few chase cards in every set that carry most of the value of the entire set. I see this as a feature of Pokemon, not a bug. And, Kevin rightly points out that it's a lot of, and I hate to put words in his mouth, but kind of degenerate gambler kind of mentality and behavior out of a lot of Pokemon buyers. And again, I see that as a feature, not a bug. If I buy something that's a scarce collectible and it's going to go out of print and I want it to go up in price so that eventually I can sell it, I love it that people want to rip packs and rip packs and rip packs and search for that dopamine hit of pulling the chase card themselves instead of just more smartly buying the single. Because every time they rip packs, there's less of that sealed product left in existence. And all of Sword and Shield era is long out of print. And yes, there's still scant amounts kicking around at distributors. There's tons of it kicking around at retailers. And there are a lot of resellers on the market like myself who have a ton of it. And I agree, there's probably so much sealed Sword and Shield product in the world remaining. It'll probably make your head spin if we had omniscience and we could just know how much there was. I don't think there's any way to underestimate how much there is. I think there's tons. But I also don't think it really matters. And the reason I don't think it matters is I think the market has already told us that it doesn't matter. We look at Evolving Skies. Those boxes finally broke over $700. They're already up to about $750 market price on TCG Player, and the market depth is pretty thin on sealed boxes. We've got Sword and Shield Base, went over $300 a couple months ago. We've got 4 other of the expansions from the Sword and Shield era that are over $200. We've got a couple Brilliant Stars, and I think Astral Radiance are both, they're within $20 of $200. The worst performer is either Battle Styles or Darkness Ablaze, depending on how you judge it. When we do the compound annual growth rate calculation, Darkness Ablaze has done the worst, and it's not one of those 3 sets that's still for sale at MSRP on Pokemon Center, so it's not kind of bumping up against a soft ceiling because of that. And if you just look at overall price with no regard to how old the product is, Battle Styles is doing the worst, but Battle Styles is still up 50% from its 2021 lows. I think the market is saying that even if there's a ton of this product still out there, even if there's just mountains, even if there's, the equivalent of whole warehouses full spread out amongst all these retailers, amongst a couple distributors, amongst tons of resellers, it doesn't matter because it's not getting pulled into the market fast enough to suppress the price rise. We still see the prices of the sealed Sword and Shield era products going up. And so we could be exactly correct. Kevin and I could both be correct that we think there's a lot of this product still in the market. but it may just not matter. And keep in mind, too, that no more of it is going to come into existence. And so every day, as people rip packs, they open them. Every day, as a few more resellers move a little bit more of their product into its final owner's hands, whether those final owners rip the packs or whether they put them up in their Pokemon shrine in their office on the bookcase, every day, there's less of this stuff. And so the chances of the market seeing a sudden flood of sealed product come out for sale gets lower and lower every day. And so the longer we go on past the point where all of Sword and Shield is out of print, people keep ripping packs, the population of sealed packs keeps going down, the odds that we'll ever see some very large market correction just go down and down and down further. Now, it could happen. I don't know. Maybe, maybe Rudy's got 10,000 boxes of Chilling Reign. He said he went all in on Chilling Reign. He said the numbers in the past. I don't remember them, but, he spent some unbelievable 6 or 7 figures on Chilling Reign. Maybe one day he'll hit his head really hard and he'll decide to dump all his Chilling Reign on the market all at once. And yeah, that would absolutely annihilate the market. It would take years for the market to recover. But what are the odds Rudy's going to do that? The odds are much greater that he'll continue a little bit at a time. He'll get a couple patrons a month who say, hey, I really wish I hadn't missed out on Chilling Reign. Can you sell me a couple boxes at a discount or a couple cases? And he'll do those kind of special orders like he does for his patrons. That's the more likely way that stuff comes to market. And from time to time, some of those people buying very small amounts of the product from Rudy will turn around and flip it on the open market immediately, make a few bucks. But that's not the kind of volume that's going to significantly move the market. And so I think the market is already telling us that there's not enough coming to market yet. And if there was ever a reason for most of the short and medium term type of investors and resellers to come to market, something like $700 boxes of Evolving Skies would have been a pretty good reason to pull most of them back into the market. And I think we saw a little bit of that earlier this year when Chilling Reign and Fusion Strike both broke over $200. They both got up to around $220, $230 kind of price range for a little bit. And what did we see? A whole bunch of boxes lured into the market. And the prices fell to $210, $215, and have held about there. But it hasn't been enough to crash them. It hasn't been enough to wipe people out or to devastate the market. It caused the market on those two particular products to just kind of pull back a little bit for a little while. And so I'm not worried about it, even though I agree there's a ton of product left in the market. I'm not worried about how much is out there because so far we haven't seen enough of it come to the market to make a meaningful long-term impact on the prices. And instead what we see is the prices on the 6-month timelines just continue to march upwards like we expect they should on a scarce, non-durable product. I'm going to make another video in a couple days about durability. I've been thinking about that a lot because I think that explains a lot of the problems some people have, and not talking about Kevin at all, but other commentators who talk about antiques and collectibles and things and why they kind of have trouble understanding it. And so that's kind of an aside. But I had said at the beginning of this that I had a more general explanation that I thought that came to mind. There's a guy on YouTube, his name is Harom, and he is a professional StarCraft 2 player. Now, he's in his early 30s, and so he's long aged out of where he's actually competitive at the top levels. But he's a legitimate, 180 to 200 IQ guy when we kind of make the memes about, high IQ and stuff. But he really is a very, very smart person. If you watch his casts, if you really listen to how he thinks about things, you can tell he is very smart. And he has a story that he told once when he was in his 20s and he was a top-level professional StarCraft 2 player. And he said that he had a particular game against another pro. And, the way a lot of esports works, and specifically StarCraft 2, is you have a lot of interactions in the game. They're basically like rock, paper, scissors, where you have one type of unit or one type of strategy, and something else will hard counter it, but then something else will hard counter that. And in StarCraft 2 specifically, you have a lot of situations where instead of just rock, paper, and scissor having 3 things, you might have like 7 things in a circle of hard counters going around the circle. And so the idea is at various points in the game, a player will make a tech switch, which means they start building a different unit that hard counters what their opponent is currently building. And then a few minutes later, their opponent will tech switch to hard counter that switch. And on and on. And so Hearthstone succeeded very well as a professional gamer because he's very smart and he could see these things happening and recognize them and understand how to change in the middle of a game. And so in the story he tells, he was playing another professional player, and he saw, as the game was developing, he saw what path his opponent was taking with his build, with his unit choices, with his overall map control strategy, things like that. And so Hearthstone played the hard counter. And his opponent didn't alter course. And his opponent overwhelmed him and won. And after the game, Hearthstone went to his opponent to talk to him. And, you know, in kind of the nicest, good sportsmanship kind of way, he asked his opponent, he said, you know, I saw you were going this part of the tech tree and you were using these units. And I took the hard counter to that and you didn't change. Why didn't you change? I mean, that's just such a bad plan to not change your strategy once you saw that I was hard countering it. And you know what his opponent said? His opponent said, it doesn't matter. I still won. And as investors or business owners or managers or as people who make decisions at all, as humans, there are a lot of times when we observe a situation, we measure what we can, we try to model it against our experiences and our knowledge, and then we try to predict what we should do based off of those things. And we make the best prediction that we think we can, and then we execute upon that prediction, and hopefully things turn out well for us. And sometimes you do the best analysis you can, and you're still wrong. And, you know, in investing, it's especially kind of a prickly problem because you can analyze a company and you can make a model for their earnings and their stock price, and then you can make a bet on their stock. And even if it turns out that you make money off of that bet, oftentimes you can't completely be sure that it's because your analysis was correct and that you were right. Now, there are exceptions. Maybe your theory on a company's future performance is that the CEO is a crook and he's cooking the books and the company's actually bankrupt. And so you take a heavy short position on the company, and then say a few months later, the CEO gets hauled away in handcuffs, the company folds because it has no money left because he was cooking the books. You can be pretty sure in that situation that you analyzed it correctly. But a lot of the times you can't be totally sure, even when you win, that you did it correctly. And so we need to be careful about over-constraining a model to the observations we're seeing and getting too caught up in what we think will happen. Because we can look at a problem too long, we can get a kind of analysis paralysis, and we can become too confident in our conclusions and lose sight of the fact that there are a lot of unknowns. And specifically in this case with Sword and Shield Pokemon, the unknown is how much is out there. I think it's a lot, but a lot is a very squishy term. And my definition of a lot and Kevin's definition of a lot may be very, very different. Maybe they're not. I don't know. But either way, a lot, well, a lot has several dimensions in this case. There's a quantity, and there's a rate at which it will come to market. There's also kind of a derivative of that rate, the rate at which it will come to a market as a function of the price in the market. We don't know any of those things. So we always need to be careful, no matter how much we think we know. We need to realize there are unknowns, there are unknown unknowns. There are things that can be known that we don't know. An example of that would be, what was the total print run of any given Sword and Shield era product? Only the Pokemon Company knows that. Another one may be, what is the total amount of products still sitting at retailers and resellers, businesses and closets? Each individual amongst those groups knows their own number, but the aggregate is not known to anyone. And so there are a lot of unknowns, and we have to just acknowledge that we don't know those things. And so be careful that even if you're making the correct analysis, you can still be wrong and you can still lose, even though you pick the correct hard counter. So I think that's about all I have to say about that. So, I'd appreciate feedback from any of y'all. I think it's an interesting subject, and, I really enjoy getting Kevin's take on it and seeing his passion about it. So let me know what you think, everyone. Thanks to everyone who makes this content possible, especially my very generous supporters on Patreon. Like, comment, share, and subscribe, and join me on Final Trade.